Students at a state university of New York campus say mold in their dormitories is making them sick. Despite a top-to-bottom cleaning over the summer, they claim the problem persists. CBS 2's Carolyn Gussoff reporting tonight from Old Westbury.
We have mold!
Students at SUNY Old Westbury shouting, "We have mold," loud enough to tell Albany. Dozens marching across campus to demand funding to better control mold like this in dorm rooms, growing on their clothing, mattresses, ceiling tiles. Persistent mold they fear is making them sick.
I've had nasal congestion and everything, been coughing in my sleep. Me and my roommate, we had like lung spasms.
I get headaches still, and it makes me feel sick in the room.
Last semester, Danica Patterson had to throw out mold-covered clothing. This semester, it was on her suitcase. And Khalif Metellus twice went to the emergency room after his clothing was covered with mold spores.
I feel like they're doing the best of their ability, but the mold comes back every year. This is a yearly recurring issue, and we can't keep putting students' lives at stake.
College officials well aware of complaints, but say there is no widespread outbreak. President Calvin Butts in his convocation expressed the same desire to remedy the problem.
That I hear and understand your concerns.
Over the summer, all dorm rooms and AC units were deep cleaned, mold-inhibiting paint applied, filters replaced, and on every floor, commercial dehumidifiers. Students were asked to keep all windows closed in air-conditioned rooms. Since the start of school, they cite only 22 cases of mold in 400 dorm rooms, cleaned within hours. But students say that's too many. They're demanding dehumidifiers in every room, and
we should get Governor Cuomo in to come and help us.
All of this a distraction to their education and a drain on their budget, say students, many of whom have not been reimbursed for medical expenses or ruined possessions. In Old Westbury, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.
Well, the University of Maryland is trying to calm fears that recent mold problems on campus may be linked to a virus that caused a student's death. 18-year-old freshman Olivia Paragal died Sunday. She had adenovirus, which typically causes respiratory illnesses. The university now says 5 more students have illnesses tied to the virus, but insists there's no consistent connection to mold. Jerika Duncan shows us why Paragal's father believes the school could have done more. Jerika, good morning.
Definitely a sad story considering what we're celebrating today. Good morning. Olivia Paragal already suffered from Crohn's disease and a weakened immune system before contracting adenovirus. Her father says several weeks into the fall semester, she complained of respiratory issues and visited the campus health center. He believes mold in her dorm room could have made her even more sick.
You can't sleep at night because the pillow is right next to mold and you're up all night coughing.
University of Maryland freshman Jessica Thompson says she discovered mold on her shoes and clothes in her dorm room back in August. She believes the fungus eventually made her sick.
We got to go home on the weekends and we would be totally fine at home, and we would come back and would be sniffling and coughing and then have headaches.
Thompson says she repeatedly alerted the issue to university officials, who eventually moved her and more than 500 other students to temporary housing while the school worked to clean the dorms.
They had put in a dehumidifier and the heat had finally turned on. The mold seemed to go away, but it was a good 2.5 months.
Freshman Olivia Paragal died on Sunday after contracting adenovirus. Ian Paragal is her father. He says her room also had mold.
It didn't help the illness. I think that's a really fair statement. We don't know that there's causation yet, but it didn't help things.
The University of Maryland says it learned of the first case of adenovirus on November 1st. This past Tuesday, the school announced there were a total of 6 cases, including Olivia's.
I want the other kids to make sure they don't get sick. I mean, apparently there were 2 kids sick when we came forward, right? That was the 13th. I would have liked to have had that information. And now there's 3 more kids sick.
While we want to acknowledge that there are cases on campus, we don't necessarily want to stir up unnecessary angst.
Dr. David McBride is head of the campus health center.
What we've done is we've stepped up our cleaning efforts. We're on high alert here, and we're working to be very diligent in following up on cases when students are sick to make sure that they don't worsen.
The University of Maryland says state and local health officials are investigating the outbreak on campus. Meanwhile, the CDC says mold can cause respiratory-related symptoms, including wheezing and a stuffy nose. Adenovirus began spreading at a New Jersey health center last month. 11 children died in that outbreak. And as we were talking while the story was airing, this really focuses on children or people with a compromised immune system. So, you know, it's not like if you get it, you're going to die, but it stinks when you consider the people who were impacted by this.
And nonetheless, heartbreaking for their families.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tarika.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for 8 News at 6. I'm Deanna Albritton. Eric Phillips has the night off. In Richmond, mold shuts down a VCU dorm for the rest of the school year. Students at Johnson Hall were notified of the sudden closure and forced to leave on the same day. 8 News reporter Talia Cunningham joins us live from the campus with reaction from parents and students. Talia.
Hey, Deanna, good evening. Well, Johnson Hall is VCU's oldest dorm and houses incoming freshmen. So the issue is mold and elevated levels of it. Today, I was able to see photos of what appears to be black and green mold growing on things like air vents, sinks, blinds, and in corners. Issues of mold, humidity, and moisture at VCU's Johnson Hall.
This has been a concern with a lot of parents.
You can see from these photos and videos, mold growing in air vents and water fountains. Becky Norris, one of many, raising concerns after her freshman daughter's health took a turn.
I started feeling sick about like October. At first I thought it was just a common cold. I was getting headaches, I had a sore throat, I was coughing.
The Johnson resident says it lasted for weeks and she went to patient first, diagnosed with a respiratory infection. Norris expressed her concerns with VCU. She says the room was tested for mold and a dehumidifier was put in. Then, in late October, VCU sent this email to students after mounting concerns. The university hired a contractor to test the air quality and specific areas. Results showed elevated levels of mold.
This mold did not just pop up with these kids getting sick like this overnight. It did not. They knew this when they opened this dorm and let those kids in this dorm in August.
VCU stated that test results just came back on Monday, and officials immediately notified students and shut down the dorm the next day. However, students and parents were shocked.
These kids are frustrated. They're concerned.
Scrambling to find living arrangements, students are not allowed back inside until they receive direct communication from the university. 8 News saw crews parked at the dorm today who specialize in emergency restoration, including mold. Norwood says the situation is being mishandled.
We sent our kids to a school. We expected the best stuff, the best quality for our kids, and I don't feel like we're getting that from VCU.
And we know all personal belongings from these incoming freshmen must be cleared out of Johnson Hall by December 3rd. Alternative housing options are being offered for those that are interested. I'm told students will find out where they're living next on Friday. Live in Richmond tonight, Talia Cunningham, 8 News.
Thanks, Talia.
Students at American University say they're getting sick after a mold problem emerges in dormitories. School officials say they've addressed some of the problems, but just today we caught up with some students who showed us pictures and video of the fungus growing in their rooms.
Students in freshman dorm Let's Hall say they're dealing with mold on ceiling tiles, rugs, and furniture.
Our beds are lofted, so it was above where we're sleeping, and we looked closer and we actually saw like furry black and green mold.
Some say it's making them sick. Julia Whitman had to move dorm rooms to get away from the smell.
Wednesday morning of the week that this happened, I woke up and I couldn't breathe. I was wheezing, so some respiratory problems, and my whole throat was completely it was hard to swallow.
Whitman's room is now cleared of the mold, but she says she was scared when facilities first spotted the fungus.
So they moved this desk into the center of the room, and on the back of here, the whole back of this desk was completely covered in mold.
The school says that it does take these complaints seriously.
This has received very, very high level of attention at the university.
The university is performing air quality testing in the dorm rooms today, after which they'll determine appropriate actions in the dorms. I'm Katrina Kincaid, District Wire News.
I definitely wake up with a sore throat or a cough.
I just woke up with congestion and I started coughing.
OU students telling us their dorms are literally making them sick. And tonight, a former student saying the problem has been going on for years.
Well, now she's suing. News 4's Kaylee Olivas is back at OU tonight.
This toxicology report from 3 years ago shows a former Walker resident had chemicals caused by mold exposure in her body. Now she blames the university and is suing them, hoping to hold the college accountable as well as protect those students still living inside.
I went into my bathroom. I saw the mold on my ceiling and throughout the bathroom.
Former Walker resident Sarah Melton says she had been experiencing a series of health issues since moving in 2018, but she thought it was just a prolonged cold.
It depends on how allergic they are to whatever the substance is that they might be getting exposed to. So that could go anywhere from respiratory problems like asthma, cough, drainage, stuffy nose, itchy, watery eyes.
So she immediately got tested. These two toxicology reports showing chemicals in her bloodstream, all produced by mold and water-damaged buildings.
Really what it boils down to is the health and safety of students, and I felt like they were failing me, but they were also failing the rest of the students that lived in those dorm towers.
Since then, the college has installed devices in Walker and Couch residence halls designed to eliminate bacteria and fungi, saying earlier this week, OU has taken steps to ensure residence halls meet the highest standards of cleanliness. But Melton says it's not enough, and so she filed a civil relief lawsuit in 2021. The university tells News 4, quote, "We are aware of the suit and are responding as appropriate."
There needs to be some sort of accountability, and that is truly all I've ever wanted out of this.
In Norman, Kaylee Olivas, Oklahoma's News 4.
We asked the university a dozen questions. They only fully answered 2 of them. We'll have the articles we were referred to on our website along with the questions that were asked.
Mold has been discovered in some dorms at a local university, and that has some students concerned.
It's been found in 4 locations at Bucknell University. WBRE 28, WYOU 22 Eyewitness News reporter Jasmine Allen is live in Lewisburg with all the details.
Good evening, Nick and Candace. About a week ago, numerous students at Bucknell University started getting sick, and they couldn't help but wonder if it was linked to the mold found in their dorm rooms. A sophomore at Bucknell University who wants to remain anonymous says she heard rumors around campus about possible mold and decided to check out her dorm room.
Eventually, I ended up finding it in my own closet, which was very interesting. I had to contact the housing department and have them come and see what was going on there.
Later that day, they came to her room in the Affinity houses and found mold in the closet and on several items of clothing. The university had the area cleaned and treated. The student also had what they believed was a sinus infection.
I was on antibiotics and they didn't really seem to be helping me too much, but then after the mold was gone, everything started to clear up a lot more, so I'm not sure if they kind of are related or not.
Another student who lives in Hunt Hall also noticed mold on her bed's comforter and knows others who have become sick.
A few girls who I live with have been pretty sick, and I know people were trying to make appointments at the health center, and it was pretty booked for the whole week, which is I don't know how much it's due to the mold, but I'm sure it's not helping.
Bucknell University issued a statement. It reads in part, mold has been identified in Vetter Hall, Hunt Hall, Schwartz Hall, and one apartment on West Campus. The university has had the air tested by third-party certified industrial hygienists, and several areas have indicated elevated mold counts, but the mold is of the common non-toxic variety. There is no evidence of toxic black mold. Many students are still living in the buildings where the mold was found. Bucknell University says they're working to resolve this problem as soon as possible. In Lewisburg, Jasmine Allen, 2822 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, Marius, Maxine Perry is a parent of a freshman here at St. Aug's. She says that she is speaking out because she's concerned about her son's health and says the university isn't doing enough to fix the problem.
Our children are not expected to live that way.
Maxine Perry sent us these photos, which appear to show mold on the ceilings and walls of Latham Hall, a freshman dorm at St. Augustine's. With no notice, she says her son was ordered to move out of his dorm room late Wednesday night.
I was put on speakerphone to hear that you're moving now because we're working on this mold situation.
New photos she sent us show plastic over a sink and shower. No signs of any professional mold remediation efforts.
Over the Christmas break, he left his sneakers in the bathroom. When he went back, his sneakers were covered with mold.
CBS 17 first told you about mold problems at Latham Hall and Weston Hall earlier this month. The Raleigh Fire Department also confirming a school employee fell through the floor at the Fallcrest student apartments. Perry calls it unacceptable and says she's spoken with several parents and students that agree.
They're afraid to come on camera because they're afraid that if they do, they would be kicked off campus. They would be asked to leave the college.
Perry says she called the university several times and also stopped by. She was told it's being handled.
This is a duty and an expectation when we send our children away from home.
I also called and stopped by today. I was told repairs were taking place, but no one could tell me what those repairs would entail.